Russia's foreign minister says Moscow has solid evidence that the alleged chemical attack in Douma in Syria was staged.
We have undeniable evidence that this was yet another staged attack that involved intelligence agencies of one of the countries that is rushing to spearhead a Russophobic campaign.
Our senior correspondent Murat Gazdiev's with me. He's across all the developments on this. So Sergei Lavrov says the attack was staged. That's solid proof. That pretty much 100% goes against what you'll read and hear everywhere else.
Well, it was... Let's remember when this happened. This chemical attack allegedly happened just as the rebels in Douma, in eastern Ghouta, had all but surrendered. They were working on technicalities, negotiating with the Syrian government on how to evacuate, and suddenly you have this huge chemical attack. It spread, the first information appeared on social media, no surprise there, on Twitter, on Facebook, and then it spread like wildfire.
Well, my colleague Ken Delaney and I have learned today that the U.S. now has blood and urine samples from some of the victims of this attack in Syria last weekend, and that those samples, according to U.S. officials, tested positive for chemicals.
The sources for all of this are the usuals, the white helmets, which are Syrian rebels and Islamists' personal rescue service. There's also, though, the Syrian American Medical Society. Not a lot has been said about them in the media, but these two are the biggest sources on this chemical attack. The Syrian American Medical Society, along with the White Helmets, was cited by Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, virtually every Western media outlet reporting on this alleged chemical attack. But with regards to what happened in Douma, it was the Syrian SAMS, the Syrian American Medical Society, that initially claimed that they had treated 500 people with symptoms indicative of exposure to a chemical agent.
Some of these groups are going to be more familiar than others. Well, what is this organization exactly?
Well, it is an organization that is funded by the United States. It in 2015, for example, it had a budget of around 700,000. In 2013, they had a budget of 700,000. In 2015, they had a budget of 6 million. You know, almost a tenfold increase. Most of that money, 5.8 million, came from U.S. aid, which is an organization that is closely tied to the State Department, which is banned in multiple countries because of interference in domestic politics, because of what is seen as its drive for regime change. And it even has an Office of Transition Initiatives, which is exactly what is being called this regime change office. Nevertheless, the executive director and the director of operations of the Syrian American Medical Association are former USAID staffers. And it was them that provided 1 year ago the OPCW, Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, with alleged samples from Khan Sheikhun, where there was an alleged, again, chemical attack, and after which Donald Trump sent 57 cruise missiles into Syria. That was a violation of the OPCW's protocols, because the OPCW has very strict rules about accepting samples. Unless they can verify that a sample came from this place, or they can verify the chain of custody, so that to make sure that nobody could have added anything to a sample, they cannot take samples. In this case, they did.
Right. What about groups that we'd regard as being far more impartial? The World Health Organization's talked about this.
Well, we've reached out to the World Health Organization, and they have refused to comment. We've written to them twice, called them, and they said that they haven't said anything. But if you take that their only statement has been that they've heard reports of 500 people being treated, well, it seems like that report again traces back to the Syrian American Medical Society.
We definitely have enough proof, but now we just have to be thoughtful in our action. The national security team is trying to give him as many options as we can, and we'll be thoughtful about it and see what happens.
Again, it'll be interesting to see what comes next, whether the SAM, Syrian American Medical Society, has given the West enough evidence to strike at Syria, or whether cooler heads will prevail.
Yeah, because the next thing we'll learn about is when the OPCW starts its work tomorrow. For now, though, Murad Gazdiev, thanks very much for that.